to the ABC Podcast.
Always be cool.
The show where your hosts, DC and BK, showcase your local business and real estate pros going gangbusters in leadership, community involvement, and just being cool.
Here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs, mortgage experts at Summit Lending, and partners in crime, Darren Copeland and Bobby Kerr.
All right, everybody, it's the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with your host, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland.
What's up, everyone?
Hanging out in the Summit Lending Studios. We've got a really, really special guy, someone that we've known for a very long time in Kansas City, someone we've got to know personally, just a hilarious dude, Mr. John Buck.
All right, everyone, here we go. Born July 7th, 1980, attended Taylorsville High School in Utah. In 1998, was drafted in the 7th round by the Houston Astros, was one of the top prospects in the game. In 2004, was traded to the Royals along with Mark Tehan and Mike Wood. He immediately took over catching duties for an injured Benito Santiago. How about that? Played 11 years in the majors for 7 different teams. Was an all-star in 2010. He hit .281, 20 home runs, 25 doubles, and 66 RBIs that year. Just an amazing year. All-around awesome guy. John Buck, welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for being
buddy.
with us.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
Right?
That made me sound cool.
Almost like you wrote it up yourself.
Yeah.
Bobby and I, we always say that we do more research now than what we did in high school and college. We actually try now.
Yeah, it's because it's something you love. It's baseball.
It's true.
I was the same way. I showed up at gym class every day. And the funny thing, my high school coach had us reading Heads Up Baseball. So I was still doing homework. It was just baseball. I was turning that in.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, gosh, right away, that's a perfect segue. We're talking about high school and potentially what you could have done. I mean, you were leaning a lot towards football at one point. You got a lot of people knocking down your door because, I mean, for those of you that have never met John Buck, I know we watched him on TV on a daily basis, but John is a mountain of a man, just a giant guy. And so it's not surprising at all to hear or to read that you could have easily gone on to play football instead of baseball.
Well, I don't know easily, but we did hear our guy Dion say that baseball was the hardest thing. So let's just take it from him. He's a GOAT. So he probably knows. But my uncles were all into football, so I just thought, I can make it because my uncle was playing at Nebraska. Irving Fryer was his teammate, and it was like
Irving Fryer,
right?
Miami Dolphins, baby.
So he was part of the black shirts, and so it was this in the context with my uncle that I was talking when I would have conversations with him, it was very matter of fact. It wasn't like when we discussed sports and where we were going, it wasn't like, hey, keep the dream alive. It was like, no, because you remember in Nebraska, they had psycho-cybernetics going on. Mm-hmm. So how you think and how you perceive things. Mm-hmm. So it was like, all right, what are you going to do about it? Like I said, I'm going to dream and play right there in Kansas City. All right, what are you going to do about it? It was a very matter of fact, what's your methodical plan and blueprint to do something about it? It wasn't like, hey, Uncle Dave, I'm dreaming about doing this. He was like, yeah, I was there. Now what are you going to do about it? So it was creating a blueprint very young and not destroying the awesome innocence of why you guys like to prep for this show and I'll wake up at 4 a.m. to do, that's passion. And if I could bottle that passion in my blueprint of where I want to go and not ruin the creativity of innocence of that I can make it and I can bottle that. And I think Bobby, you're so good at so many things. It's those passion things. You're talented in so many things. What you've done is learn how to exercise that passion thing, to exercise that talent and the creativities. There's no barrier. It's like, oh, what if I screw up on this chord? It's like, I'm going to fight through it. You follow what I'm saying? I'm going to figure this out. And that's that thing and passion that I learned to kind of lean for it by psycho-cybernetics, or meaning I'm never going to make it. That wasn't in my psyche. It was a very fall forward. And that was a early impression because of my uncle, because of football. So I was doing that through football, but it formed who I was. And then it ever flowed. We're going from Nebraska back down to I-80 to to Salt Lake from an Idaho tournament, and this really happened. And I told my uncle, I'm going to play right there. And then my dad and my uncle said, prove it. And core memory. From that point, psycho-cybernetics, my uncle said, put yourself right there. And that was Kaufman. Like, you're going past, you got the Athletes Christian building right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if because of Sweeney, Heavenly Father was shining through from the Christian Athlete building through me as I'm going 9-7, and I could feel it, and it was the power of everything. But it was a core moment that it was, okay, that's the ultimate goal. There's going to be all these naysayers. Remember, I was 10, coming from Iowa tournament in 10, hearing psycho-cyber. And it was the form of the attitude of football that gave me that, like you said, this football presence and prowess. It was that, and that leadership to fall forward and take those things and kind of have a very innocent approach to sports. Like there wasn't saying, "Hey, you're not going to make it." That was never implanted in my psyche growing up. Well, at least on the people that I looked up to.
Sure.
And that's such an amazing mentor, John, to have that someone in your life at such a young age, at 10 years old, rolling past Kaufman. And what's the chances, right? You were drafted by the Astros. So what was that feeling like that trade comes down? Maybe we should just jump right in and talk about that. Like, how did you find out about the trade and how did you react to that?
Okay, the trade.
Let's set it up a little bit first for the people that when we say the trade, we know what it is. Maybe you just talk. Let's go straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
The trade, huh? So the trade was, since I have Royals blood in me now, even when I was in the dugout, having the Royals beat us when I was on the Angels, I got hurt, but it was like, oh, that's Alex and Billy and us. But those are my guys, right? So. When I lost train of thought because I was in playoffs in the dugout. The trade. So the trade, when it went, you were losing Beltran, arguably one of the hottest, greatest baseball players in the world. So the trade was, what kind of value are we getting back? And so that's the responsibility that I felt. And I thought, all right, what are some of the things that Beltran what was he in that locker room? And it was something I asked Sweeney early on. What was it? What was he in this locker? He was a leader. So Mike Sweeney was like, you're the player rep. like, well, what's a player? Wow. What's a player rep? I just got traded. I'm trying to figure out what size pants I wear. Right. And it's like, oh, that's all right. Don't worry. You'll take along the role. Right. So already leadership and diving into the family as part of the trade. It was the responsibility of the trade. That was my part, right? Mike Wood bringing innings and values and wins. Think about Beltran won ball games with that bat. He had responsibility of that. Then you're having David DeJesus, who became one of them. You guys see us in those buses in fantasy camp.
Yeah,
that's as we said. That's my guy. That's my guy. That's my guy. He got me through my boys being in the NIC unit in Overland Park, right? He got me through, going over 100. Why we lost 100. Those are my guys. Like those are people who make you. And then Beltran was that guy for everybody, and not only that, for the city. I remember Dick and Betty Cagle and some of as I'm coming on scene, what Beltran meant to the community of people. His church is surrounded with a wife and kids. This is what I felt when I got traded. He left. I still feel this of Beltranism around. You know what I mean? His essence still, his successness still around. And you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be a part of covering that, and then it's kind of falling short. It felt heavier because it was that magnitude of a player, but as we started to grow in and become more like Beltran, you could see how that trade became more value to the organization later. Like me, longevity, maybe creating room or trades for other people led down the road, to Jesus becoming the player he was and the leader. That was all influenced by Beltran. So when you say the trade, that was his leftover effects of us in that clubhouse that call us Royals. So it felt like this, you guys all saw the production stuff. I was no Beltran, right? But the one year that you rambled off, that was a Beltran bad year, right? Offensively
Right.
from one guy.
Right.
So it to have him come in and be a part of that, the trade to kind of move the needle forward on the organization. So what revert back to me losing to the Royals with the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
My part of what the Beltran trade was, that influence on those guys and getting Billy to work with even Ryan Shiley and Alex to be on his first little. I remember going to the first Walmart ever, and I was on the Caravan the year before, and nobody was at this Walmart. The next year,
the Royals Caravan.
Yeah, we go to this Caravan, and I'm like, who are all these people? We lost 100 games. And for some reason, the entire state showed up, and it was this kid. And, and not only a kid, he's a man. He's a man in every sense of the word, a father, a player, a leader. The same thing you feel around Beltran. So to get traded a part of that and then pull that out, that Beltranism out of other players, I'm like, all right, the rest of the world doesn't see it. Baseball see it. Baseball players see it. The Royals see it. I see it. That's why I'm around. The Blue Jays and Pirates that see it, that I was around, they see that. Baseball see it. So my trade isn't as glorified and sexy as maybe Beltran and David and them. But me as a catcher, seeing that lasting effects that I saw in that, I don't know. That's how I've reasoned that I gave a little more into the trade since it's not as cool as Beltran, like I said.
Sure. Well, I think it's
catchers. We like to make it look like we're doing something.
Well, I think as a catcher, you're a natural leader, right? You personally are a natural leader, but most catchers are. And we've had other catchers on the show. Jamie Quirk talked about it when he was on the show. Duke, obviously, like the leadership that catchers just kind of naturally gravitate to and then lead the guys on the field is a big piece of what you're talking about. So to have that 30,000 foot view and to see long term that, hey, I know what my role is, and maybe a little push and a little help from Mike Sweeney to say, this is your role now. You have this responsibility on your shoulders. That's a big deal. And I think it ties in exactly with what we talked about in the very beginning with your power of the blueprint and following a plan and being motivated and the mental strength that it takes to accomplish certain goals. You can't just say, like most kids say at 10 years old, guilty of it myself, I want to be a big league ball player, or I want to go play professional basketball or baseball or whatever that it is. But to say that I've got a blueprint and I'm going to do what it takes to follow that to accomplish my hopes and my dreams and my goals, man, that's incredible to have at that early age. But then to even carry it on. What were you when you came to the Royals? 24-ish?
Yeah, I remember hearing that because Zach was pitching.
Yeah.
Zach came up and I was catching. And at that point, at that date, it was within a couple whatever. We were the youngest battery thing going on.
I think,
So I don't know what the date is. I'm sure there's some.
2004, I think. Yeah, 2004 is when it happened.
Because the thing, as we were doing our research, John, is the thing I even forgot about, and we're lifelong Royals fans, right? But I forgot for a minute that Benito Santiago spent a short time here with the Royals organization, right?
That year that he and Juan Gonzalez came together.
I have this little. I think my son took it. To have these little knickknacks, obviously. I had this little figurine, Benito Santiago, out of the upper deck thing that I had since I was little. Right?
I loved him.
This, and then there was that poster that was the bazooka. Did you ever see that?
Yeah. Was it the San Diego Padres?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So I get traded, and I was like, hey, Mom, do you think you could send my figurine and my poster down? And then my dad was like, do you think he's really going to sign that? You just took his job. I was like, yeah, he's really cool. He even said hi.
You just took his job.
He even said hi to me today in the clubhouse, Dad. Maybe send that thing.
He's my guy.
Yeah, so I had my mom send out my little toy and see if he could try to sign it. But I still have that figurine around. I don't know what happened to the poster, but.
Was he pretty gracious back in the day? Because I know he was kind of at the tail end of his career.
When I came out, because I think it was injured and stuff, it was definitely not the Benito that was controlling staffs, going for the playoffs. When I came in, it was I think the whole Kansas City said, we're developing. We got rid of Beltran. We got this child catching another child, and we're making records of children's play. I think we have put our hands up for that. But the development that we had at those younger years, the way we got to experience at the big league level, I think is why Zach's a freak. He was throwing change up, doing things, and being able to lose where you can't normally lose at the big league is why I think Dayton was able to capture that learning and that special. Look at that core. Those were the guys that were getting beat up that learned from us and Sweeney and those older guys and Stairs, and then, boom, Gordon then took off. They became gangsters. Right. So I think those suffering, because they had good leadership and a blueprint, that those losses didn't go for nothing. It was like, I swung a miss. I made a good adjustment. Bah, I hit it now. And when you look long-term, and blueprints make you be able to document that and assess and self-evaluate, whether it's 162 games in 180 days, or in Dayton's term, all right, I'm going chunks. Because I got an organization to do, and I got this to develop, and I got this, and I got this young Perez coming up with this young kid, John, and then all that formulated, like, holy cow, mastermind. That took a blueprint, right? And for have it to come together and to execute, that's why it's so special when it does happen. It takes those early years and those special guys learning from that 100 last, getting your ass kicked season to like, I got something out of it, and making the right moves.
Right. And that's such a big difference. What you said, John, is having that blueprint and having the plan, because as we all know, in football, you can turn a team over in 1 or 2 years and you're back, being competitive. In a market like Kansas City, you have to have that blueprint plan of developing players, drafting well, making a few key trades when need be, signing a free agent here and there. So it takes a while, right? It takes a number of years, and signing a Salvi out of Venezuela as a teenager, right?
Yeah, at 16,
just crazy stuff like that. And
there's so much to it too, because there's also budget and stuff. So let me just throw that out, just because I'm right in there, so we can get a little insight.
Yeah.
So this is why Dayton's special too. Is I left the Royals feeling that I was too good for the spot and they couldn't afford me. Like there was no reason for me to do that. As I'm sitting here, it was because I wasn't putting out what I should have been doing, right? What we all thought of. I did as soon as I left, change of venue. Dayton's so educated in baseball, it was like, it wasn't, hey, you didn't cut it, kid. Like, there was some good years. You were almost there every year. I got this gangster coming. It was like, can't quite afford it. Made me feel awesome. Championed me. I became an all-star. Moved Kendall in there. Planned this with a little more what I would have caved, but it would have been lost because I would have been competitive with Perez. I wouldn't let his ass in there. No way. I already did that with Molina, and it sucked. I lost when I was hot, right? Dayton saw this. He knew all this. He lived this with me. Perez is your guy. He saw that. Let's cook him a little bit with one of the best minds. A little, and he's good. But he's good. He's super good. I learned from the because I wanted a little because the guys like the He got it, and Perez got it. He got what he was putting down. He became a Sweeney did to a leader. And to be able to put a blueprint with Dayton, and then they were beating me a couple months later, and I was sitting packing my Angels bags and going home. But it was weird, but I liked it.
Exactly. Hey, I do have a quick question for you, John, because before we move on, everyone has a Greinke story, right? And I don't want to forget to ask this.
You brought him up, so might as well.
Right? Yeah. So do you have a little tidbit of one of your favorite Greinke stories?
That maybe not the rest of the world sees on the articles from The Athletic.
So what about how we had Olivo be his catcher? Because I was really detailed and I knew all his stuff. You know about that? Have I talked about that?
No, go ahead. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
So I was, I get almost over Atlanta because I want to come to the meetings and give, because Zach's smart, right? I want to give all the information I could or whatever. Zach knew that there was an intelligent thing. Now, Olivo, not that it wasn't intelligent, it wasn't as thought out and overanalyzed. You were in the weight room before having a conversation. I would say maybe sometimes for some people too much. Maybe for Zach it was too much because he knew what he knew. I would start to make him doubt, and I think he was fluffing my pillow a little bit, like, you're too smart for me to throw to, right?
Interesting.
So he liked throwing because not that he says it wasn't my hands, of course, because it hurt my ego. Like, I just caught Zach. We're doing good at the beginning of the season, and you're getting ready to do Cy Young, and you want me to leave, and I got to check my ego? And so it was like, all right, I got to keep doing my portion of Zach that's good. Is my little mini getting traded before we go to the playoffs, right? Is I get this, like, I prep Zach, I do all this stuff. I grew up with him. He had troubles. It was me. Like, I was doing that. What made him better is being able to throw a pitch confidently with a game plan that he felt confident with Oliva with. Like, it wasn't about John. It was about him executing. And for him to be, and it's dry cut, and a lot of it gets lost in translation. He came, John, I can't throw to you. You're too smart. I second-guessed myself. And I'm like, you just ripped my soul out, Zach. You just gave me a lucky coin because I can feel you wanting me to get hits. And out of the blue, you're going to tell me I can't catch my Cy Young anymore? And I'm just going to be normal? Like, no. If we were in New York, it'd be a
story.
Yeah. So that transitioned, and that was my story. And it's not as weird. It's weird when you're going through it. Like, what the hell is this guy? I'm too smart for you? Because you need some help. Because everybody thinks you're dumb. Like, you hear like the way you're talking? But it's just he was so intelligent, he couldn't get it out, right? He was
that's true.
And he was so articulate, and I was fogging that. Meaning, in performance, if you're getting thoughts that are fogging and not that are outside your blueprint, it's bad. You're out of the zone, flow, whatever goo you want to talk to. You're out of that. And
I think that's the message for no matter the industry.
Correct.
We talk about it all the time. If something's clouding your focus and doesn't allow you to really hone in on what needs to be accomplished, then it's all just noise, and then it screws us all up. So it doesn't matter if we're playing baseball or –
check this. What you're saying. Look at this. Look at this little photo. No core memory. Let's get up tight. Where is it? You see the Jeter one? Where is he? Right there.
Bring it down a little bit. Bring it down.
All right, so let's see if I adjust this. We got to see that. I'm talking to him right there.
There we go.
Yep, there it is.
See that Young right there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm asking him, right? Oh, this is cool. So I'm asking him. I was like, dude, the week before, I'm in the papers. I'm at home. I just hit the home. I just beat the Yankees myself at our place, right? We have an at-bat where Jeter's at the end. I'm down in the way. He's fouling, doing his little thing, and I'm just back there like, what is this guy doing? He's a freak, trying to get him. He's found off everything. He steps out. He blows his bubble, winks at me a couple things. He says, John, we having fun? You knew my first name.
Made it.
Got it. So I was like, oh, he said my name. So, right? So I'm young right there. That's a young John Buck. So that he winks at me, and I'm kind of like, what the heck? He's got me by the balls. I'm done. What is he? And I think it was bases loaded, and it was like within one game, and it's just at that. And I remember just feeling the intensity. And this was like the middle of the summer. Like June, like I just got traded, right? So I'm thinking it's my World Series. And for him, he just winks at me. I'm just impressed he says my name. And he's so fouls off 4 or 5. And I remember the intense and more, and I'm seeing him. And he's blowing bubbles and just seems so cavalier. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. So I went up to that picture, and I'm like, dude, how did you do? Like, I thought I had you. He goes, you started to have me. You started. The RPMs, the way he told me, started to go up. You got my head thinking. You were looking at me because I was looking at him. Like, dude, he keeps fouling us down. Like, should I go one in? But I don't know. I've seen this. This is, I think, in all our kids, boom, hitting him in October, hitting a homer inside out in the ball. I'm like, I don't want to double because then my homer is meaningless. I don't want to be the hero today. So I'm like, I'll make him do this down and away. And we're playing that game. So we're playing that cat and mouse game. He's telling me in that picture, you're getting ready to get me. You're getting thoughts in my head, just like you said. Mm-hmm. He put himself back in his hometown in Michigan. His mom's backyard, blowing bubbles. The house in the left field, that guy's a jerk. He doesn't give his ball back. There's trees in right field. Wow. Like in Kansas City, you were doing that? He goes, I'm slowing down the RPMs. You started to get me to thought. And I was like, what? Wow. So he was putting it back like a childlike play, innocence, like I was telling you with my uncle.
Mm-hmm. But on the biggest stage.
He even talks about innocence of creativity when he talks about the up and throw. Have you ever heard him talk about that when he jumps and throws? Mm-hmm. Jeter talks about keeping his creativity out in his play with that and being loose and playing with creativity because he has less thoughts. There's less critical thoughts going on or thinking what ifs or daddy ball. What did my dad say? Those are extra thoughts. So I think when he said that, core memory, and luckily my people got me talking to him, it was like, oh, that was secret sauce. That was Stephon Curry that I love playing basketball. He shoots. I hear him say, as soon as that ball leaves my hand, I know whether I made it or not. I don't even allow that there's another person to shoot it. I make that micro adjustment, and I made 10 of them before I even leave the gym and the lights go out. Like they eliminate that thought, and I think that's a superpower. That's the Mamba mentality. That's all this flow and zone. They have an uncanny ability.
It is a superpower.
And routines and rituals. And you've heard Jeter say blueprint when he was going to the Miamis. If you're looking at it,
mm-hmm.
That's the way we're wired. To be able to have routines and rituals to reduce thoughts, to control peak performance. That's the name. That's why that guy's a freak.
Yeah,
that's why Alex Gordon doesn't even eat pizza. Freak.
Right.
How do you? I have too many 0 for 4s. I gotta have pizza real on hand.
I love it.
So, John, what did he finish the at bat doing that you were talking about?
Oh, he got out. Remember, I was in the paper. We won.
Yeah.
You were the hero for the day.
Yeah, I was the hero. Right. Remember, we won. I thought I gave the answer beforehand. I get that home run. We finally got him out, but I was asking like 2. It was a little short. I stuck with my plan and short. But I remember just getting so intense and my stance was getting wider and wider. I just remember feeling so taxed as this guy's winking at me and blowing bubbles. I'm like, golly, he's so cool. Why can't I be like that?
I want to be like Jeter. Well, we keep hearing all the people that we have on the podcast, in different areas of, sports and businesses. It's about the mental fortitude and having that ability to block a lot of the negative thoughts that try to, come in your mind. Because, as a professional athlete, all the things that you guys go through, just the travel alone. Bobby and I can hardly make it through a week of fantasy camp, and we're not even getting on an airplane going anywhere, right?
It's because, let's not get it twisted. You're standing on Group B, and I'm going excuse me, I got my filet mignon and my steak and lobster. So let's not get it twisted. My traveling in the big leagues is better. Now, if we're going minor league bus trips, those are your gangsters. Those are your guys. Those are your grinders. I think that's what you're feeling because I see what you guys do to yourselves after the ball games. That stuff's called poison. They have that little warning sign down at the bottom of the minute. And don't let
Let's keep this a family show.
Yes, exactly. That is called poison. Yeah, it is a family show. We're dealing with healthy athletes.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of poison, let's go back to 2006. So you were involved in a thing in the dugout of a game. And I've heard you tell this story. A lot of people might remember it, but I want to talk about it. But before you talk about it, I want to read a quote that came from a website back when it happened in 2006. And a lot of Royals fans are from
me.
This is RoyalsReview.com. Mm-hmm. Quote, "Tonight we saw something else. An in-game, in-dugout fight between Renelvis Hernandez and John Buck. Post-game, details also came out on WHB that Hernandez and Buddy Bell fought at some point earlier in that year. Because the Royals were still in 1955, however, it was never reported. After striking out Ryan Garco, anyway, there's a thing that happens, and then I'm going to read you another quote after you tell the story. So go.
So there was a Schneider thing that happened previous to this, where Nelvis was rehabbing, and there was an incident with a minor league guy, right? Okay. In the minor league, whether it was a spec in the dugout with another Dominican player. So I got my facts straight prior to him coming, because I'm thinking we're family. I didn't know if this was a Latin American thing, to be blind to say that doesn't happen. I want to make sure. In Renelvis's defense, my pitcher, and I was like, oh no, it's a Dominican kid. I was like, oh, okay, because of the scenario, it could have been racially disturbed or whatever, right? So I was like, oh, no, I'm going to find this. And then I found out, no, it was another Latino kid. It excluded that. I mean, I betted into this. It wasn't like I just lost my shit and wanted to fight Renelvis on the mound, right?
Right.
So it was a repeated thing that he'd done something with the lower minor leaguer, went to the next start, did it with my manager, who I respected, who was doing things with my kids in the neck unit, and just my guy things. Like stuff I'll go to war for Buddy Bell with. And it was just that family thing. And when I saw something that I disagreed with, like I told Dayton, I apologized for it, but I stood by like, you're doing that to Buddy in here and we're losing. That was the culture things I wanted to kind of squish. So when he came at me, I don't know, I was ready to roll right then and there. On the mound, do you want the story on the mound, how it occurred?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I want the exact story you've told me before.
Okay, so coming up to that was the disrespect that he's this older whatever guy, right? And this is stuff that goes on, and Renelvis, I tell this because Renelvis and I think I've told this and it's been fine, because it's also this stuff happens. And to be able to get through this, I got me a pretty sick tie and cufflinks out of this conversation too. So we squished it. So he ends up really having a habit of kind of giving this big leaguer, I'm better than you feel. And guess what? We're the Royals losing 100 games. I didn't feel like there was any room for that to be happening, right? Because the way I felt, none of us belong there. And if we're going to go about getting better and doing that, it's not about pitch counts and things that he just disrespected my manager, because it was about him and selfishly in his pitch count in Yankee Stadium. So now we're in Cleveland Stadium. I think Ben Francisco was up, the hitter. We're up. I think I hit a homer or something, because I was feeling frisky, of course. Why would I want to think I could fight, right? Of course I'm feeling good about myself. So I think I hit a home run. We're up by 3 or 4. And bottom of the lineup, we're the Royals. There's all this equation going into my head. Scoreboard, working with Bob McClure, whatever we're at. We've spent our bullpen. We got Renelvis, should be a sinker ball guy, get us along in the game. I'm going heavy because he's got this going. But there's good Falcon changeup with the good, he had it going. So Ben Franklin, let's get out of this guy. It's not time to work on stuff. I'm not telling him because his ego was in the way. He's older. Well, guess what? Billy Wagner listened to me and started throwing a slider when I was in Double-A Astros guy. And I bring that up, the Wagner thing, because I was saying very baseball, like, hey, we're rolling here. You're rolling. We don't need to work on your third pitch with young Ben Franklin, right? Not the one we saw later. Young first couple at-bats, Ben Franklin. Right, let's get it down away because he's trying to jerk and prove everybody in here being nasty. There's my baseball reasons, and we need more bullpen. He calls me out and says, I got tenure. I was like, you sound like Ricky Henderson right now. What does tenure mean? Like, well, then if you're so smart, throw the pitch that's right. And then of course he wanted to fight, and I said, your shit's not that good. Just do whatever you want. I went back behind the mound and said, let's go.
Literally put your arms up and we're like, come on, let's go.
You can
this
see it.
almost
I'm
sounds
sure
like
you can see it.
this sounds like a Bull Durham reference.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was, I finally openly, because he was so not showing up, here's my tools, is I was mirroring him. You're going to do, like, I'm not the person, you've seen hundreds of games of me catching.
Sure.
You see me do this to my pitchers and do it.
Never.
All of a sudden, I just do this. Go ahead. Like, I was doing that on purpose to get him. Well, if you're going to do that to my manager, my teammates, let's do that. That was one of the things that I made real apparent to him. Like, I don't like this. He doesn't like it. They're like, our family doesn't like that. I could have done a better job. That was me being young and dumb, ready to kill someone, right? Mm-hmm. Probably just like I said, ego was inflated with the home run. And I didn't like that. And then when he came off, because I showed him up, I'm putting my helmet and stuff down, and I started hearing, Spanish. I turn and goes to swing, and I duck. And then I went to turn, and I remember having Angel Baroa here, and then I think Luis Severio right here. And went down in the tunnel and started, acting like a little 12-year-old, throwing things and screaming, "Get down here!" And I remember Buddy Bell said, "There you go. Here you go." So no fight. I caught the rest of the game. I don't think calling a sign. And I think we ended up winning that game. Renelvis sought me out that night. So in his defense, he tried to find me. I didn't want to have anything of it. Then the next day, found out we walked the mall. He got me some cufflinks like any ball player would, and we were fine. Ding, ding.
That's awesome.
So,
That's cool.
So it was a way to go out and, but hearing him, how he reacted some other guys later, sounds like it made a difference. And that's kind of what I was going for. But overall, with our team and the culture, we were kind of what Mike said, hey, you got to do this. I maybe could have done it a little better, but it gave me something to talk on a podcast later.
Right.
When I'm trying to when I'm always trying to be cool,
right.
That's amazing. But there you go.
That's not what you did there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I think there's a couple other stories, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time today before you got to run. I think you even have a podcast episode of your own that we'll make sure to pimp here a little bit later. But there's another story I think people would like to hear. They've heard reference to it, but maybe talk a little bit about the out of baseball experience that you had with some elderly women in a vehicle.
Oh.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Oh, in Miami?
Yeah.
That's when so I was, when I signed my deal with Miami, we were going in, looking at Miami for all the cool, half the reason why I signed with Miami team is to go look for a house to say you live in Miami for all the right reasons, right? And Brooke was really digging the beach, so we were like, if we're going to move. And there were some things with my son with some developmental stuff with the Dan Marino Center and therapy and stuff. So it was like becoming home. So we're like, all right, let's go search home, right? Let's start going out in the area, start looking areas. Well, this one neighborhood that I loved, I pulled into, which happened to be Jay Feely's, the field goal kicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was his house. I rolled in and ended up being the one that we're trying to purchase. But anyways, we were there buying it or whatever, thinking, dude, this is the house. I think this is it. And we're pulling out of the gate, and wham, whoosh, and this right in front of me. And I was like, whoa, right up against the palm tree and where the gate is. And so I think, the papers, and because I was this brand new signed guy, like I feel guilty even acting or letting it even seem more than what I did, right? That happened. Any person could have went up and, like I said, help those ladies out. It's not like I lift this thing up. It would have been a way cooler. But all I did was kind of make sure the ladies were right, make sure we got the right authorities there, told them, and then it started getting weird. So I was like, hey, you guys cool? And the police were like, yeah, see you, John Buck. And I was out because everybody started like, are you in town doing that? Because it was the big signing with me and Burley and Ray. That was all going on.
Nice.
So the case of all it was made it really cool. But when it's real hero stuff, first responders, I feel really hesitant to try to impose or impersonate some hero scenario I was. Maybe with the lady over on the other side, a tiny bit of heroism, I guess.
Right.
She was a little whatever. But I don't think it's anything a normal person wouldn't have done for a human if that happened to him, if right in front of him.
Yeah, well, it happened to you in a car.
But it was
overturned.
pretty, it was overturned. It was cool. The ladies did come to a ball game later, so
that's cool.
That's cool way to have a story.
Well,
That's
it
a
seems
great
like
story.
that happened to you, and it also happened to, Bluma has a similar story that
Yes.
he went through as well.
Did he talk about that on the show?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. We were
Bloom is just cool.
Yeah.
Well, we were so
Bloom is get your soul.
John, we were so distracted that he brought his detached finger that in a snow globe onto the show, and it kind of threw us off.
That's not a joke.
See, that's it. I don't have any pieces that I can float, attach on, bring in a snow globe,
Oh, my
take
God.
as a party gift.
Right.
It's why Jamie's
Bro,
that's why he's cool.
he legit came into the show, said, I got something to show you guys. You're the first people to ever see it. And he brought it in. We said he had it encased in DC calls it a snow globe. It looks like a mini pool ball, right? In acrylic.
He's a little bone on
Yeah.
it.
And Darren goes, How long have you had that? He goes, well, it's been in my freezer for a decade.
It's been next to his ice cream for like 10 years.
Dave, that's all you need to know about a bullpen guy.
Yeah.
That's there you go.
That's it.
Weirdos.
They walk around, they have like, oh, hey, want to see my spare finger? That's a bullpen guy. You don't see a position player walking around.
Right.
Check out my
Here's
finger.
my finger. Yeah, they don't do that. That's a bullpen guy.
I love that.
That's why they put them in a little box and go, hey, go down there.
Oh, my God.
That's why they do
They're
that.
just a little blessed. They're just
That's
a little
amazing.
special.
That's right.
That's a little special.
You got
So-
I got a couple more, but I want
Well,
you to.
I actually want to, again, being mindful of time, I want to bring up what we talked about right before we started the show about the cool stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, John, you want to take a couple minutes and talk
Yeah.
about that cool stuff?
Well, it'll actually be launching tomorrow, I believe.
Wow.
Guys that I've been, like some of the stuff that I've been dealing with or got into entrepreneurial-wise is, one, the Glove Guardian that I had that was like this glove wrapping case that Lizard Skin ended up purchasing. At the same time, while I was doing this product and going to ABCA and kind of getting entrepreneur itch, I was still in the union of like name, image, and likeness, all this stuff with licensing and all that going on. The product call, which everybody knows now, everybody's used Lizard Skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was, I opened up that door. It's made in that batting cage right here,
That's awesome.
Nice.
right? So it's the same story though as Charlie O'Brien in the catcher's helmet, Johnny Bench in the one glove, me and Lizard Skin, right? And or products. I didn't get the whatever purchase sell price. I got my own little cut. It's learning what power players have with their name, image, and likeness with the NCAA and those stuff coming up. Whether it's changing the transfer portal, they're kind of weirdly in open for business mode in a weird way, right? And having the weird experience where I was sitting in the chair watching and dealing with the show that we did with Showtime called The Franchise. I was the player rep that had to deal with Logan Morrison getting benched for a tweet that the same players are getting paid for now, right? So it's like I had a unique seat at that. Now, there's a thing that was going on that I almost had with Manfred as I was exiting the game called Next Level Locker. Look in the collective bargaining agreement. That's that saying that there's this intellectual name, image, and likeness. And I thought as lessons and stuff go on, that's going to be huge for ball players, right? It's obviously an issue for the players union. And Din Man had created the last MLB.com, right? With MLB, all that, which became Disney.com, was sold for whatever, buku bucks, right? Mm-hmm. He has a track record of this stuff. I believe with all this data, exit velocities, motion analysis of this, players need to own their own name, image of that stuff. That's massive amounts of money that's changing because they can predict the movement on that. You're not giving me a chance to have that opportunity sometimes. So I want the players to be able, I believe the players should own their own data. They should be able to own their own story, and they should be able to dictate where that goes. Now, I know I'm not just the only one thinking of this. I'll name off some names. Den Man being one of them. You can look him up. He was helped with Bob Bowman being the next guy. He was head of business for Manfred. Dusty Baker is also in my company called GoatNet.
Nice.
Obviously, he was getting ready to do some obviously, his life is a documentary, and some of the things, the businesses he have, whether it's his winery or alternative interests, things that are in his life, right? There's other areas that he can cast his net out. Jim Duquette from journalism. Den Man was a Kansas City Star
editor, right?
Editor-in-chief.
Yeah.
And so owning your own story, I think, as a player or as a student athlete, or a student athlete that doesn't become professional, but I use this credential, as that's what we are, is what we're doing, is we're creating this credential to show, hey, I had this, say, Nebraska. Let's take Alex Gordon, but he didn't make it. And Alex Gordon is into insurance instead of being, 9-time platinum gold glove winner for the Royals, right? So Alex ends up doing that. He sells insurance. Well, he has a few moments coming up through Nebraska and maybe made AA with the Royals, and he didn't quite do it. He didn't get to go down and hang out with Jersley and become a superhero, right? Mm-hmm. And then come back to become the George Brett. He stays down there. He has those experiences being first rounder and everything. But now when he goes into insurance world, he has those moments. He owns those moments. Now that story, the Den Mans, the Jim Duquettes, those journalists, to help guys like me to articulate and understand my story behind Lizard Skin, my story behind Buck Athletics, my story behind Renelvis Hernandez that made me a leader, my story behind this core memory with Derek Jeter. I'm a nobody compared to some of these GOATs. Some of these stories there's a lot of it, and where Den Man, Duquette, and Bob Bowman, they've seen this and they've been able to do this, them or us. They're not tied to those shackles of baseball anymore. They're here to make the wrongs right with owning your story, owning your content, your name, image, and likeness, and then with a track record being able to digitize and monetize that so that it puts the players safely back in their hands with knowledge, knowing like, what do I possess as I start to make large amounts of content? Brands want to talk to me. Businesses want to give me a job if I'm I got this documented 4 years of college and came out a leader. Whoever, Colgate toothpaste wants to sign me because now I'm the rep. I don't know. I'm just trying to silly things out just for concept. So I identify that as a product doing that stuff, getting the Buck Athletics. You guys have been around it. You saw it in the fantasy camp since the way I exited the game. I saw name, image, and likeness being a real product. Now, NIL and all that blowing up, it sure has. Mm-hmm. I ran to the utmost professionals to try to skate to the puck. Go ahead and look at those people up. Check out goatnet.com tomorrow. Okay. You can kind of see that. The credentials, what I believe, and these smarter men will go, and I get to give my player's opinion, right? So it's not gold. It's still forming. Rules on NCAA and NIL still molding. It changes daily with transfer portals and that stuff. I believe, you can hear Deion Sanders talk about this, I believe it's our responsibility with our name, image, and likeness, people like me, Johnny Gomes, Dusty Baker, Dan Duquette. It's our responsibility to teach them and educate them about what their name, image, and likeness stands for, represents, and the power they could wield with that if held responsibly and done correctly. I think we did a terrible job of doing advertisement as baseball players, first off. So I feel like our business is disrupting and giving the answer to that. And two, which I think the entire world, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Mm-hmm. Let's educate them with the content we're doing. Let's at least put the step forward. I know Bob, I know Den, they know, because we protect major leaguers. they know how to educate what we need to do to grow our game. As even within this one baseball that Manfred was saying, their agenda, it falls under this.
Let me ask you a question. When you're talking about advertising and baseball players, and especially in your generation, it just really didn't really happen. Is that because Major League Baseball as an organization purposefully stymied the intellectual property of a player so that the league could potentially benefit, and they tried to make sure that players like Logan Morrison with a tweet can't hurt the reputation of the league? What was it that kind of was the gap there for players in this game to not be able to capitalize on their own image, likeness, et cetera?
Well, let's not get twisted. Now, the gap there, right? The gap there is because it's a business. Anything that we're going to do is going to benefit us. Let's just let's be honest. Like, before we're getting point, they better do it this way because that's so that divide where it's them or us. It's by nature they have to. Remember Bob and Den, and they want to come in and right those wrongs because they lived that them or us. They had to. It's the right way to do it. Now there's this third party to benefit what's going on. They're this third party credential to say, let's help this thing that's happening, whether it's NCAA, NIL, there's this content of this thing, this tool. And I think just finding ways to make this a better tool with a healthier direction for all youth, they're on this a lot.
Right.
It's literally changing the shape of our brains. Literally, measurably changing. Especially let's do this. Let's put, my thing is, let's use it as a tool. Before Logan Morrison was getting benched, he's getting rewarded now. The guys are getting paid. Not only that, we've decided to change NCAA and make it so that, hey, businesses, we want to have these opportunities, these interactions. So I am being in the unique seat with these luminaries of this, with Dusty Baker. He was just called upon of an organization that had a black eye. And then got a World Series, by the way.
Right.
He's an expert of doing that whole blueprint thing, weeding out all the bullshit.
Yep.
He's really good at it.
Yep.
And whether it's business or whatever, there's routines and rituals that he does. And he's talking the same stuff about our kids, whether it's mental health. And that is advertisement. You're playing with advertisement. But being out front saying, this is responsible to put, hey, I'm a Wilson. This is responsible. This is my responsibilities to say this with Wilson. And this is as a young age. You start putting weird stuff on it, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, it's
we need
slope.
we need to educate them, and I think instead of a gun, we give them a safe weapon and a tool instead of something scary.
We're really just talking. We're talking about education.
Yeah,
that's really what it is, and being able.
And where advertisement was such a thing lacking, I think we're at a position it could be a positive, how accessible,
powerful and positive.
Right. Well, and there's so many, with technology over the years, the different social platforms, and everyone's on camera. And I remember, was it back in the day? It wasn't Tecmo Bowl, but maybe it was John Madden, and you knew who the player was, but maybe they couldn't use their name or something on that.
You had to unlock them.
Yes, exactly.
You had to unlock that player.
Yeah. So a lot has just changed over the years. Which is so. Give us a website again. Is it goatnet.com?
Goatnet.com.
Okay.
Yep. Goatnet.com.
Awesome.
Everyone check that out.
Yeah. Before we wrap up today, John, why don't you talk also about your podcast? It's pretty awesome.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I started doing Behind the Dish. Behind the Dish was just like all these little aisles that us athletes can do. It was my view of what was going on. I started it during COVID. Content, intellectual property, content, doing podcast kind of theory. I have dollars, whether it's Max BP or whatever, coming to me because of the content. And I always have it. I always have it to create commercials and do stuff, right? So, and it also, I believe it's like a verbal, think about the opportunities that's come for you guys as a podcast. Yeah. There's open conversation, the opportunity.
Right.
It's very unique.
Right.
It's like playing golf.
It is.
But now we get to show it with the world, and it's like a business card. So I think that's an asset where your name, image, and likeness, it's an asset that it brings value to me. So I did it kind of that purpose. Now, my attention of the podcast was more to educate. It wasn't for my own monetary value of doing it. It was more to prove it. If you go check out the Marshalls, a summer league ball club that I'm associated with, all the major universities rolling into it. I got 4 teams this year, and they're going to possibly 5 the following year. Last year it was 1. We're going to 4. So a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about, for example, I got LSU coming in.
Nice.
LSU, there's this Yacker Tech camera system. It's at LSU. That same camera system I'm putting in here. Johnny Gomes is going there right now to work with LSU. Wow. That LSU guy is sending their 18-year-olds to me this summer. So all the biomechanic, all this data stuff that we're talking about, he'll be able to see in real time, have it, and do it. All the LSU coach, all his 4 or 5 guys, in real time, he'll be able to watch and do this. So those are the things, because it's getting easier and it's getting crazy, and to be able to have that and have the same digital biomechanic feedback that's going to Dayton Moore or Mike Maddox, or that's going to this LSU coach, and it's the same measurements. So we're getting science to where we'll be able to see that in real time, that it's that child or that player, I say child, he's a man, he's in college, he should own that. He should own that to be able to own. He's putting out that data. Now, that data will be able to make me a whole bunch or not, and you'll be able to judge that. I want to be able to control when that goes out. And when I do, I maybe want to be able to say, hey, I'm just bang. It's not the, put this on while I'm throwing my bullpens. And now they give me my Chick-fil-A card or my bangs, whatever. But those opportunities need to be there so that the player, while I'm using my data and my story, I can advertise it for me and then not somebody else.
And have them get the benefit of it.
Yeah. Well, at least understand what the opportunity is. Because even the university, what I'm seeing, this engagement, that in itself is valued because these players, they need that. Yeah. It's healthy. Right. That's called rookie development program that only one of us 1%ers get to. Mm-hmm. But now technology is making it so I got to have this experience with Harold Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the world now can with Sabathia and Granderson and all those. They can have those experiences now with the union because of technology. And if we're able to own our IP, that'll make me more accessible for the brands and people I want to connect to, because it's a wild, wild west right now. And until
it almost seems like it seems like really the overarching theme to kind of what you're working on is that, these guys in this fraternity, or, it doesn't matter if they're a professional or if they're an amateur in school, like, you're more than a ball player and you have a lot of opportunity. Let's help harness that. It almost feels like we're talking about the NFT version for athletes. Is that a fair?
It's funny you say that, because inside of there, I don't say that because there's always so much under the hood when you say that.
Right.
GoatNet. Where you go, what your story is, you'll see. It's your own thing. It's my own. Yeah. There's even a way to invest on that where people can get in on Dusty Baker's documentary and they can have ownership through an NFT. But I don't go talk to those smart people on that. Don't talk to me. Right. I'm just a ball player. I'm just a kid.
Right.
I just know.
You are certainly.
I just know that data that I use to analyze and know that I will get 45% swing rate off of you. That correlates, because now that's monetary value that you don't want that getting out. You want to be able to possess that, and that's kind of the angle I'm taking to. But that's also the same way I was able to get you out. And the way Johnny Gomes talks about it with the pitchers, when I'm able to get this data, I will beat your brakes. I'll beat the brakes off your breaking ball, because that's data. And we both know how to use that. And from a baseball standpoint, I want to learn how to teach that through baseball data. I want them to use it, not just all this stuff, all my access. Like, how do you use those data points? Then in the middle, how do I market with my data points? How do I show the world how valuable I am? And then the other part is, hey, there's this other arena of life. How can this data control my Alex Gordon or insurance salesman, or whatever he would have been if he wasn't selling gold gloves,
awesome,
right?
Dude, we love it. What a great. John Buck, modern day Renaissance man here,
Right.
spitting some cool stuff
Entrepreneur.
that is just kicking butt that not everybody has the opportunity to do. But John, you're a very skilled individual on being a phenomenal leader. You're obviously a great leader in the clubhouse when you were playing. We've had firsthand experience of being around your leadership. And so much of that is not about telling people what to do. It's about leading by example, always being positive and making sure that you show the light to people to say, you are more than a ball player. You've got some really cool stuff going on. Let's help harness.
He's like the definition of always be cool.
Absolutely, man. I think it's so fitting that we had Rex Hudler on yesterday and we've got John Buck on today because so much of just wanting to bring light to people and serve others is obviously a very, very big part of your code. So we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and spreading it today.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. Just the whole blueprint thing that's just a gold nugget that you had in the first 2 minutes. So thank you for sharing with that.
Yeah, and just I'm always plagiarizing other people I've learned from. So go check out, so your listeners, go check out Jim Fannin. I met him through Alex Rodriguez when I had a little bit of the yips thing going. You hear that? The Chuck Knoblauchs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I started working with him. I got back to the point where I was almost an all-star game.
Jim Fannin?
Jim Fannin. Yep, Jim Fannin.
Okay.
He was a professional tennis player. Yeah, he worked with Oral Hershiser. Frank Thomas mentioned him during his Hall of Fame speech. He's a mental skills coach.
Like a mental coach?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
So he has a book called Baseball in the Zone. And he has a book that's actually, I think, on his website. He may be, like right now, advertising the blueprint. He has a book about it. So go check those out.
Awesome.
I just regurgitated stuff from his book. So just to make me sound smart.
That's
So go
great.
check that out for your listeners.
That's so powerful
thank
for
you
anybody,
sharing.
no matter the arena or industry. So I think it's very, very helpful.
Bro, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Hey,
man.
fellas.
This has been really cool.
Well, thank you.
We love you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You guys are both, Bobby. This is what we talked about. And I don't think people realize what just happened, how he did it. His ability to absorb things going on. I talked about it and stuff that I've talked about there. Being in the zone, being in the moment, blueprint, those things. There's a reason why you're weirdly good at those things. The stuff that I say the points that I like, you hit them and you just brought them up. And those are those secret core memories that I'm trying to tell you from Jeter. He told me you're really good at being good at things because you skate to where the puck of success is. And you're really good at those things you just rambled off. You just picked out the secret sauce. You named it. So that's just a credit to you're good at what you do.
Thank you very much. Luckily, I've got some great mentors in my life, DC being one of them, to help me do those things, and also being an educator, knowing that people listening to the show need bookends, right? And to reinforce the most important pieces is so important for all of us as we learn and as we try to reciprocate those things to other people. So thank you very much.
DC, I was just going to bookend it right here, and he took the words out of my mouth.
I know, right? There it is.
To staple it, to kind of finish it up, I think why I am the way I am and who I am is because of the people and leaders around me. Bobby, with what you're doing, do you see what you got going here? I think you guys are doing something bigger than you think, whether it's just for our little community and fantasy, it'll grow. Planting seeds and you mentoring Bobby and giving this structure of doing that, the way the leadership that you had, whether it's confidence of Bobby, we can do this. I know your role because we've been in that clubhouse. We're talking about clubhouse shish that everybody gets.
Right.
You are that teammate. You guys are demonstrating that. So big props to you, DC, and thanks for letting me be a part of it.
High five.
I appreciate
Always
that.
being cool, you too.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, man.
brother. All right, guys. Hey, this has been the Always Be Cool podcast. Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland in the Summit Lending Studios, hanging out with the phenomenal John Buck, Major League All-Star. Guys, make sure to find his podcast, Behind the Dish, on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Check out goatnet.com. This has been Always Be Cool. Spotify, Apple, Google, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff. You guys take care so much.
Marshalls.com. Go check out that fall
There you go.
Summer League team. All
There you go.
Thank you
There you go.
so
Thanks
much.
again, John.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Darren and Bobby thank you from the bottom of their hearts.
They hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave them a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in our community.
Also, feel free to let DC and BK know which business or community leaders you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or on social media. See you next time for a new episode. And remember, always be cool.
This podcast is powered by Summit Lending, NMLS number 1850081, Equal Housing Lender.